If Ryan Poles was a robot, who would he choose? We answer that question next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Johnny PayPal. It feels good to be truly live again. Our recorded shows are up. How are you feeling? I haven't talked to you in weeks, a week and a half. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. I've been, bearing through all this weather still in Wisconsin, still getting snow. I think we're hoping it's done with, but yeah, you've been avoiding all the snow and been in sunshine and rainbows.
I have. For those that don't know, I think that we mentioned it really, really quickly on one of the recorded shows. We literally Thursday night, not last week, but the week before, we recorded 3 shows in a row just so that we had that. And then, on Friday, right after work, I drove down with my family down to Florida. We stayed at a friend's place, and my God, it was 90 degrees.
Oh, wow.
It was completely different. The South is just a completely different land. And I was still working because I don't have any vacation, but it was glorious. It was amazing just to be out there. I'm not even tan at all because I didn't actually go outside a lot. So we'll see.
Hey, better than me. I'm basically reflective at this point just because how white I am. But
So we have a good show planned for everyone today. What we are doing is I kind of wanted to have a fun little idea, right? What if we just simmed it through and treated this like the actual draft? Because Lord knows, we already know who everybody is already saying that the Bears are drafting in the first couple picks, right? And so today we're actually using a mock draft database, or the NFL mock draft database simulator. And we're going to just go through and we're going to simulate through the different picks. And we're going to treat this like the actual draft. We're not making any of the picks. Robo Polls, as we'll dub him, is making the picks. And we just have to see what do they go with. Because also, I think it's important to know everybody out here uses these mock draft simulators. Everyone is the GM. And it's good to see what's being selected. And also, I just think it's kind of fun just to do something different than the typical, all right, we're going all right, we're going Paris Johnson, right? Okay, so
Peter Skronsky, all that. Yeah, exactly.
We're going to see this. And honestly, I'm ready to throw down if this robot sucks.
I think that'll be exciting, though, because we'll see. Yeah, because I think we all know as Bears fans what we want. But kind of see what more of the public kind of, what other simulators or, what people are thinking outside of our Bears fandom community is thinking.
Exactly. So we'll see this. We'll treat this like the actual draft. And and also everyone, since we've been gone, everyone left PFF, went over to the Pro Football Network simulator. So we're going to try a little off-brand one and see what it can drum up. And I can already tell you, there's already some interesting stuff going on. So this is the NFL mock draft database simulator. It took me multiple times just to get 2 quarterbacks at the beginning. And I think it's just because they might not factor in how important quarterbacks are. So this is going to be interesting. I will say this, though, about the NFL mock draft database itself. They do a very good job at consensus big boards, but their mock draft simulator is a little crazy. So this will be fun. So we started off. Actually, let me, I could pull out just a little bit of music that we do have just to get this started. The NFL draft has started. Carolina Panthers go with CJ Stroud at pick number 1. And at pick number 2, Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama, is headed to the Texans. So if I continue it to simulate a little bit longer, Devin Witherspoon. Okay, we got to pause this right now. And yet again, too, this is why we wanted to do something a little different. Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois, cornerback, goes number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. That's a shock.
Wow.
I mean, if they really need a corner, I could see that happening. This is where it's like, okay, they got to go. They would go Will Anderson. but Will Anderson does end up going pick 5 to the Seattle Seahawks. I did also see someone do a mock draft, and Will Anderson went to the Bears. So
Yeah,
these
yeah,
simulators can be off.
yeah. I think I mean, Arizona, you look at their team, they're basically the worst. They are the worst team in the NFL, which is shocking because they were probably one of the best, most loaded rosters 2 years ago, and then now they basically need every position. Um, so that honestly, I wouldn't be kind of surprised. I mean, PFF they kind of have them getting like Tyree Wilson now, like, and yeah, Will Anderson. So it's interesting, a guy like that, Devin Witherspoon, and even Tyree Wilson's going way up where we thought we were going to get Tyree Wilson, but guess not.
Yeah, so that's where we'll see where everybody ends up going. Let's see. So simulating it through. So Anthony Richardson, pick number 4 to the Colts. Kind of expect, that's kind of it's either him or Will Levis, right? That people are kind of expecting. Then at pick number 6, Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State, going to the Lions. Could see them wanting a corner. Las Vegas Raiders going with cornerback Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. And at pick 8, Atlanta going to Tyree
So
Carter
close.
out of Georgia.
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Jalen Carter.
To Tyree. I got the Bears on my
no.
mind. I got the Bears on my mind.
Yeah. Hey, he's been working out though with with
Yes.
Olin
Yeah.
Kreutz and with Braxton Jones. So hey, maybe not Jalen Carter, to Tyree Carter is actually a little, better or something this year. But who knows? Maybe we don't need an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And I think the whole reason why we like to do these exercises is also kind of see what goes on, right? With this, we have 3 corners going early because of Arizona essentially going crazy, getting a corner early, right? But also, I've seen these go a different way too, where the offensive linemen end up going early, which is something that could happen. Like Las Vegas, they don't have a good offensive line. You might see one of those offensive linemen going early. I also do like the idea of Jalen Carter going to the Falcons just because they just got Calais Campbell. They just brought him in, right? You have Walter Payton Man of the Year. He can easily kind of coach this guy up. So I think so far, the only thing that really kind of stands out is Witherspoon. But PayPal, on the draft board, we got Tyree Wilson. So if we go over to defensive lineman, we know that we need defensive line help. So defensive lineman, we have Kalijah Cansey, the D tackle, still on the board, and Brian Brzee. Then also at the edge spot, defensive end, we need some help. Tyree Wilson is still on the board, edge out of Texas Tech. Lucas Van Ness, edge out of Iowa. Miles Murphy, Nolan Smith, all out there. And if we go over to the offensive, tackles, they're all on the board. Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, Broderick Jones. PayPal, what do you think RoboPolls is going to go? Or where would you go? And then where do you think?
Yeah, I would go Tyree Wilson. It just solely just because he is the best player available. The thing that just kind of gets me, thinking is I really believe there's more edge. This draft has a lot more edges that we can get in the second round when, in our second pick. Our second pick, we really can't get a really dominant offensive tackle off the board, where it's like this pair, like Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, Broderick Jones, those guys are I don't want to say elite, but they're very high end right there. And Tyree Wilson, I don't know. I think the mock draft will honestly go Tyree Wilson just because he is the best available. I don't know. I like Paris Johnson just because there is more edge talent throughout the draft. But that's just me.
Yeah, and Jimmy agrees. He's thinking Tyree Wilson. A-Train saying trade back. I would. This is where like trading back would be the greatest thing in the world, especially like if you can trade back to 13 or 14, like that would be incredible because then you could still get like some good tackle talent and also get a second round pick or potentially a second round pick. But let's see what RoboPolls does. All right, RoboPolls, don't let us down. Okay.
Yes.
This is kind
of
okay. So I'll play the little chime. My Robo Polls selects Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle, Ohio State. Let's go. So I like that pick. I like that pick so far. I think that's good. Bears Bones is saying Tyree Wilson, right? We got some Tyree Wilson people like, why didn't Robo Polls go that way? Paris Johnson Jr., we've talked about him a lot. Honestly, hey, pal, I don't know about you, but I lean Paris Johnson Jr. nowadays with
Oh,
everything going on.
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, instead of Peter Skronsky, I think it just fits with kind of how our team is right now, where we do have time for him to develop, and we saw how Braxton Jones developed. So it's like we have the coaching where Paris Johnson can develop into that elite player, kind of because he is that higher potential than a Peter Skronsky is. Or Peter Skronsky, it's like he's going to be good. He's going to be nice, kind of. He doesn't have that high potential though.
I think too, with also Paris Johnson Jr., something that I really like about him is it's like, he's a tackle, right? Like, he's a tackle. And Skoronski reminds me a lot of Zach Martin coming out of Notre Dame. Shorter arms, played tackle at a very high level in college, but immediately shifted to the interior into guard.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, since you need a guard, that's where the questions kind of come up. But just simulating a little bit more, Tyree Wilson goes pick after over to Philly, so they have an even overloaded pass rush unit.
Wow.
And then Smith and Jigba, RIP, goes to pick number 11.
He climbed so high after the combine and the combine, and then also his pro day of he's been skyrocketing. He was supposed to be like 20th or something. Now he's 11.
Yeah, I know when we talked about it, like when we were breaking it down, it was like pick 20 was always where he was going. And then people are like, wait, this guy is good at running routes and he's potentially fast and super quick. It's like, yeah.
It honestly makes me happier. I mean, I think ideally I would have loved seeing him on this team. But kind of makes me love that trade with the Panthers even more, because it's like, here's this guy, his draft value is rising, so we would have to get like a more expensive draft pick, so to speak, on this guy rather than and we wouldn't have been able to get, say, like a Paris Johnson or Tyree Wilson if he is available.
Yeah.
Now we get both.
Yeah. So we'll see. I simulated up so that because we have it on slow, so I can like pause it right beforehand and we could talk about the pick. So also too, A-Train said AI is smart for once. Yeah, I've ran a couple of these simulations on these things, and they had us selecting Brian Brzee a handful of times out of Clemson. I'm like, no. Even like when Tyree Carter was on the board, I was like, no, please, for the love of God. But yeah, so here's where we are at right now. I went up to the second round and what we have. So big news, I guess. Washington takes Hendon Hooker at pick 47. Then at pick 48, Detroit gets Luke Musgrave. Double A's out of Northwestern goes pick 49 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Clark Phillips, the third cornerback out of Utah, goes pick 50. And pick 51, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. And right before the Bears, Steve Avila, the interior offensive lineman, guard, center, you can kind of do it all, out of TCU, goes one pick before. We're now at pick 53 for the Bears. Let's see who is on the board. So PayPal, we got our tackle, or a Robo Polls got us a tackle. Let's just look at interior, right? Let's just see who's on the board. Right now, Cody Mouch, the interior offensive lineman, North Dakota State, Joe Tippmann, Luke Wypler out of Ohio State. So it looks like the center out of Minnesota has already gone. But also, if we go over to defensive linemen, Tuli Tuipulotu, defensive lineman out of USC. We haven't talked much about Tuli, but kind of a 3 technique if you shift him to the inside or a defensive end. Keanu Benton, defensive tackle out of Wisconsin, still on the board. The overall 57th best player, Gervin Dexter, deep tackle out of Florida, number 71, still on the board. And then if we shift over to edge, if we want to address that, Keon White, edge out of Georgia Tech, still big enough to kind of have some versatility. Isaiah Foskey, the edge out of Notre Dame, Derek Hall, edge out of Auburn, Zach Harrison, edge out of Ohio State, Andre Carter, edge out of Army. Lots of edges on this thing.
Just how
So
we planned. Just how we planned.
exactly how RoboPolls did it. Is there any other position we think that they might even draft? Let's just
I don't believe so. I mean,
Sanders, Jack Campbell, both linebackers on the board. I don't think they
no
would.
tight end,
Zach
no
Charbonnet, running
corner.
back out of UCLA. Sam Laporta, tight end out of Iowa. Maybe RoboPolls goes with that. Matthew Bergeron, we already have a tackle. I don't think they would go offensive tackle. DJ Turner or Julius Brents, the corners are also kind of wild cards as well. But PayPal, where would you go with this?
Yeah, I would go edge. I'm kind of I don't know why. I just am not as into getting interior offensive linemen. I'm more of getting, defensive line or an edge player. So I I do love the two kind of names that people are kind of, or one of the names, Keanu Ben. I love him. I think he'd be a great pick. Honestly, I think he could go for our the next pick that we have. Um I don't think he's risen up that much, so I think we could wait and get him then. But I this is someone that's been like rising kind of in my little draft board, but I love Isaiah Foskey.
Foskey?
I love Foskey, so he checks all the boxes for me. Even over Keon White, which heck, you can get both of them, but I think Isaiah Foskey, I like him just a little bit more.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of Benton. We got Keon White. And yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we go with. I think internally, I do like Benton a little bit more than Tooley at D tackle. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm kind of like, do you go D? I'd probably go Benton and then kind of follow up and then try and get a defensive end with the next
Mhm.
pick. But let's see. Let me get my my little loop ready and all
Oh,
right. With pick 50, the Chicago Bears, RoboPolls selects Tuli Tuipulotu, the defensive lineman out of USC. We haven't talked much about him.
not bad.
We haven't talked much. Let me actually pull up his stats because we had like we said, really haven't talked much. He's gotten good production out of USC, and he is 6'3, 266. So still a little small to be D tackle. But he could bulk up and kind of play. He's kind of this tweener. I think how are we feeling? So yeah, we got some
Yeah.
out there.
I'm
He is
I'm no I don't this personally for the size doesn't matter as much for me, which is funny. The guy that,
yeah, you like your fat
absolutely,
boys.
yeah, I love my fat boys, but realizing just how, we already got a fat boy on the team, so I think we got to check that box. And now I like the idea of having more of like a versatile, defensive interior that can always be out there, or, shift around a little bit more, fill certain gaps better. Where I don't mind this pick too much. I haven't, you know, dived too much into him because honestly, in like I kind of like we're doing this different draft simulator because in PFF, he never falls to us, and
That is
now it's
true.
like, okay, like maybe he does fall to us into the draft, and it's like, okay, what do we do,
Yeah, and just a little bit on him too. In 2022, had 13 sacks, and then in 2021, or I think it was like 12 and a half, and then in 2021, 6 sacks. So he has had some decent production. I think overall, like when I watch him on tape, the thing that I don't love is like he normally you want someone to be a little bit quicker. And Jimmy, I agree with him on this. Like on the edge, he's a little bit slow. And then I think, yeah, it might be a little too small for the inside. So if he bulks up, he's comp to DeMarvin Leal coming out of Texas A&M a little bit. I see a comp out here. And so he needs to bulk up a little bit, but there obviously this mock draft simulator gave this pick an A+. So they're the ones making the picks out here. But he
Yeah.
is someone that haven't discussed a lot. But yeah, he always seems when he attacks, he'll engage first and then he does a move. And it's like that little bit where I think he could kind of get caught up by some of the larger NFL talent, but still, I think that interior presence, if he's able to kind of move in there, I think he could be good, but he still
Yeah.
only played 53 snaps at 3 technique, so still kind of a project to be at that D tackle spot. But it's an interesting pick, but I like the idea
Yeah.
at least going D lineman.
Yeah, I think for, the first pick, it was, kind of what everyone expected. So I don't know if we give that an A in our book or a B plus. Um, but I'm a little more down on this pick. I kind of feel I think we're on the same page of it's like, all right, we got him, but it's not who we necessarily wanted exactly.
And like we said, it seemed to be the chat
Oh
favorite.
wow.
Keanu Benton goes right after at pick 54 to the Chargers,
I,
followed by Drew Sanders to the Lions, Brown to out of Illinois to the Jags, Joe Tittman. When we originally talked about Tittman, he was a 4th round pick, and now
mhm.
he's going at pick 56 to the Jags. A lot of people love him out in space, like us. Sam Laporta, we talked about it when he was going to go in the 4th and 5th, going in this 2nd round as well. Devon Achane and Matthew Bergeron going, the offensive tackle out of Syracuse. So this is where we have 2 picks in 4 picks. So pick 61 and pick 64. So let's see who's still on the board. Let's go with D lineman. If we don't feel that Thule is a D tackle, Gervin Dexter is still on the board. He's the 71st overall player. If we go to the edge, we need edge help. Keon White is still available, the defensive end out of Georgia Tech. Very physical, very big. And Isaiah Foskey, edge out of Notre Dame, Derek Hall, Zach Harrison, all those defensive ends are still there. If we don't get defensive end, I don't know. I I don't know what to do with that. But if we look to the interior, Cody Mouch, out of North Dakota State, still available. The pick, he's overall 58th on the consensus big board, and pick number 74, Luke Weipler, center out of Ohio State, still on the board. Wide receivers, Tyler Scott, Rashee Rice, so it'd probably be a little bit of jumping up if we were to go receiver, if we wanted a backup. Linebacker, we don't need a linebacker, but Jack Campbell, Deion Henley are still on the board. Tight end Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State. Looking through cornerback, this is also a wild card. DJ Turner, Julius Brents, still on the board. Julius Brents kind of matches the size profile that we might be looking at, a little bit of a bigger type of a player. But PayPal, what are you feeling with this? We're getting some Foskey, White or Foskey.
You have to go either Keon White or Foskey. It's weird. I mean, we see Jack Campbell up there, and I think normally we'd be like light up and be like, okay, get Jack Campbell. That's our guy. But we got that linebacker spot already fulfilled. We're probably one of the tops in the league now. But I mean, Keon White and Isaiah Foskey, I think you cannot go wrong with either of them. I mean, they fit our scheme perfectly. They're kind of that 4-3. Keon White, a little, big. He's like 285, 6'5", 285. So he's a monster. At the age of 24, so he was a redshirt senior. And then Foskey, he's just a normal senior, so he's a little younger. I still like Foskey a little better, and to that age just kind of is that additional bonus, so to speak. And he's kind of that slimmer. He's 264, so I like his aggressiveness and kind of his high motor better than White. But I'm not mad if we get either of them.
I'm kind of going Foskey. I think that's who I want, because I just want that DN. I want that attacking DN that we know is kind of a DN. White's, he seems like a little bit of a tweener, which might be the Bears type, but let's go. The pick is
Come on,
in.
please. Oh,
okay.
Derek
Big
Hall.
difference. 61. Go Derek Hall, edge out of Auburn. They're giving it an A. That's how do you feel?
That's weird.
I
I don't know how I
love it.
feel about that. I mean, I don't mind Derek Hall, but that early, you know?
I think like that's how I feel too. Derek Hall, 6'3", 254 out of Auburn. Like we've said before, Derek Hall has a good quick first step at the defensive end position. To me, I'd be pissed. Like I'm a
Yeah,
little
I would be
pissed at
mad.
like Derek Hall, like you have Isaiah Foskey and Keon White both on the board, like or Foskey, I like, but yeah, Derek Hall, that's interesting. That is a very interesting pick, but yeah, like we said, more of he's definitely a defensive end. Um, but yeah, I just
Yeah,
not a huge fan
that's
of
a
this pick.
D. That's a D in my book.
Yeah.
I don't know why they have an A on there. That's a D. I've not been too happy with this, robot polls so far.
What's
Robo
Robo
polls.
Poles doing? Yeah,
Yeah, what is
so
he doing?
8 sacks last year, 10 sacks the year before. And yeah, the big thing with him is I also don't want to like hate on it right now. I think it's the reason why we are hating on it is because you had other people still available. And I think that's where
Yeah.
we're both high on Foskey and Derek Hall. I'm not that high on. So that's also why we wanted to do this. Cause otherwise it's like, I like this guy and we select him and then we can
Mhm.
just kind of like talk it through. But yeah, he's more of a jumper across the line. Really kind of can, and just kind of running off that edge. But yeah, the get off is the big thing with Hall. But let's see the next two picks, who ends up going. And with this, Keon White ends up going to the Chiefs, the pick right before the Bears, and Zach Charbonnet, the running back out of UCLA, goes at pick 62 to the Eagles. So now pick
I
64.
don't care that, we just drafted an edge. Get another one. Get another one.
I got it there too. Like
we
we
cannot
need
get
it.
enough. We cannot get enough of defensive linemen and edges. We can't. I mean,
I'm
just
there
keep getting
too.
them.
I'm there too. I'm like, yeah, maybe you double dip with Foskey, right? You double dip at defensive end. I don't think that Robo Polls would do that. It's probably not programmed to double dip. So I'm curious if it goes. I mean, it's flagged as interior offensive line. Cody Mouch might be really interesting, but I think the problem is
Yeah.
he's more of a guard. I think that's my
Right.
only. I think Whippler would be the best thing. Bears Bones Foskey in all caps.
Yeah,
Right?
please
Like
get Foskey, but yeah, they won't. I wonder, do they have a Chicago team needs? I see that has that on there. Does it say, do we need a corner or if we need like a
I don't think
defensive
so.
line or something? Okay,
Not on
because
this.
yeah, I wonder what they think is like our next team need, and I maybe a corner. Yeah,
I think
maybe
they would
DJ
go
Turner.
corner. I think that they're probably going to go corner with this. Because there's still DJ Turner, who's an insane athlete, who's still on the board. And also you're talking about Julius Brents, who's a taller, plays the zone a little bit more, and Darius Rush, not a bad corner out of South Carolina as well. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, have Whitebler says Adam A Train saying bet AI takes corner. Yeah, I think it's going to be corner. Let's see. Let me
Yeah,
resume.
we'd hope for Whitebler or Foskey, but
And we
look
guessed
at
it. We were right with it. And
that.
with the 64th pick in the NFL draft, Robo Polls selects DJ Turner, corner out of the Michigan Wolverines, 5'11, 178. So a little bit of a lighter frame corner. This dude ran a 4.26 40 time. So he's
Wow.
blazing fast, crazy good athlete. It's one of those things too. Like I know you and I, we like the idea of getting more of a slot corner later on. And I think that the Bears also talked about potentially having some slot corner depth. I think that this at least that says, okay, now you can see where does Kyler Gordon kind of fit into it. And you also have someone that, he's more of a man corner, but still he can, like we've talked about before, a lot of the man corner coverage can kind of translate to some of the zone coverage because you just have to ultimately stick on your guys. So
Mhm.
I guess how you feeling about this, PayPal?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's crazy because I have the PFF stuff next to me, and it's crazy. They have him ranked, like 104th. It's like this would be a complete reach in their eyes.
Yeah.
So that's where, once we get a little later into the draft, it's kind of up. I mean, we're still in the second round, but it gets kind of up in the air where, all these guys are going to be available and kind of who we can and can't get. I don't mind the pick. I think we talked. Honestly, it's an F in my book just because it's like you got
Oh,
Foskey.
really?
Yeah, you got Foskey, and then you got gosh, the other guy, the center, Luke Weipler
Yeah.
available. Um, I I'm not a fan. I think
Okay.
I think if those guys are available, I think you get them over DJ Turner personally. Um, it is nice having speed, but I don't know. I not a fan.
A-Train saying he was in Marvin Harrison's pocket this season, still caught balls, but they were insane catches. Yeah, and that's also
Yeah.
future Bear Marvin Harrison Jr., as we all know. But
Eh,
yeah, I think it also varies because he's got that crazy speed. I know Adam was saying like, yeah, it'll be curious to see where kind of these all play out. But yeah, DJ Turner does have that next level speed, which is crazy. I was just looking at it. Lance Zerloin has him as his fifth best corner, so he's
hmm,
very high on him. Yeah, so like we said, it's really that athleticism and kind of explosiveness that he does bring at the corner position. But yeah, right? He
yeah.
comes back, gets that corner, but now we have our long wait to pick 103. And this is where, like, when we're on day two, it's really going to be all at once. But this is where, too, I think that polls, I could see him trading down one of those picks, like the
Really?
53, 61, and 64. I feel like that's prime polls trade down, like, unless he's absolutely in love with someone, I could see him
Yeah.
definitely trading down and being like, "You know what? I don't need this guy, or I'm not high on these people, so I'm just going to trade back a little bit."
Yeah.
So let's see. We're getting right about to the Bears pick and pause. So let's see what ended up happening. We're now at pick round 3, pick 103. I think that's actually technically pick round 4. Um, but yeah, so the pick right before Boutte, wide receiver out of LSU, went. We have Bennett out of Maryland, the corner going right before that. But other some pretty big names at pick 99. Tucker Kraft, the tight end out of South Dakota, goes. AJ Perry out of Wake Forest goes. Or AT Perry out of at pick 98 out of Wake Forest, and Weipler goes at pick 96. So close to the Chicago Bears. But let's see who's available for the Bears right now. You could use some interior offensive line. Right now, not a lot of the household names, so to speak. Emil Coyer Jr. out of Alabama, Jarrett Patterson out of Notre Dame, Andrew Voorhees, who tore his ACL at the scouting combine, Braden Daniels out of Utah. But if we go over to linebacker, here's where we're seeing Noah Sewell is still on the board, linebacker out of Oregon. I still don't think we necessarily need a linebacker necessarily. Defensive
Yeah.
tackles, Colby Wooden. I've seen he's more of a defensive end in my, or actually, no, he's the D tackle. And let's see, corners. If we really want to go back to the corner, well, Darius Rush is on the board with out of South Carolina, Garrett Williams out of Syracuse, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, one of our favorite players out of TCU. This is why. This is where we want to get him. This is our boy. We love Hodges Tomlinson, Jalen Jones, Riley Moss. I it makes me really not love that DJ Turner pick. But at the edge, Zach Harrison still on the board out of Ohio State. Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. Yaya Diaby out of Louisville still on the board. I'm trying to think of anyone else that they might get. Tyjae Spears out of two
Yeah.
running backs. Zach Evans, Kendre Miller, Sean Tucker, Kenny McIntosh. Lots of good running backs if we still wanted to go back. And at safety, JL Skinner, and Jair Brown, if we wanted to get any backups to kind of groom out there. I'm trying to think of any other positions. Luke Schoonmaker and Zach Kuntz, tight ends. Trying to think of anybody else.
Yeah,
PayPal.
wide receiver. Honestly, wide receiver. I've been loving the idea of getting Nathaniel Dell. Kind of that's
Yeah,
kind of like that's where we're like speaking strictly business and like kind of Madden franchise esque of like, all right, you're kind of not paying attention to like the emotions of the players and getting rid of a person that's kind of been in the franchise for a while. Where like, yeah, if we got rid of Mooney, he probably wants a contract this upcoming year. And then we're basically replacing him for Nathaniel Dell. Like
yeah,
Nathaniel Dell, he's been looking really, really good. Like obviously undersized, but he has that certain route running style and really pays attention to route running where kind of that technician where I mean, you think of like Devontae Adams, like kind of that technician, like Stephon Diggs. Um, and it really translated into the NFL. Like speed and physicality sometimes doesn't as much. That route running really kind of, I think, helps more. So that would be interesting getting Nathaniel Dell. Um, I mean, Zach Harrison is still on the board. I think that would be again, we need another edge. Um, he's 6'5", 275, so he's a big boy. Maybe 3 tech, maybe fit in there a little bit. Maybe gain a little more size, but he's been it's kind of weird. He's kind of the guy that's the run stuffer, or most of these edges are kind of the pass rushing, but they can't stop the run. This guy's kind of on the flip side.
yeah. And I want to bring up a comment that Doug made because Thule, he's listed as a edge according to PFF and also Pro Football Network as well. I think that's where he's like the king of tweeners. He really is. Like in a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, they're like, all right, 3 tech, right? Because even though that he's listed as an edge, I'm pretty sure that PFF's like ideal fit is like 3 tech, right?
Mm.
Like, and I think that's what's hard is because when you draft someone like that, it's like, yeah, are you going to throw him at the 3 tech or are you going to throw him somewhere else? Yeah, I say that's enough talk. We got to see what we end up going with. Let's see. Click resume. Okay. This is
Okay.
interesting. With pick 103, Robot Polls decides to go running back out of TCU, Kendre Miller. They're giving this a B plus. I guess Kendre Miller, let me just pull up a little bit of stats on him. Or do you have
Yeah.
anything, PayPal?
Yeah, I'm not. Again, here just the picks. You can tell it's a simulator because they can't. It's stupid to pick like 2 edges or 2 defensive linemen or whatever. They can't really decipher that. I, in the third round, getting a running back after we just signed, a bunch of running backs. Khalil Herbert's looking real good. I'm not. We can get one in the 5th or like the 6th or 7th. Try it out, try one out, maybe be a good special teamer. Who knows? But in the third round, where this team needs a lot, we need to add some pieces, and you get a running back at 3 is just kind of all right.
Yeah, and like Torrin just LOL. Like I feel like Robo Polls started strong, and I feel like Robo Polls is starting to he's starting to get
Malfunction.
yeah, he's starting to get rusty right now. Doug
Yeah.
out here was saying he's compared Miller and Spears. He prefers Spears. I think that's kind of where I'm a little bit like, okay, there's a lot of other running backs out there. I don't know why I didn't pull up my running back ratings and what I had on Miller, but I'll just like read a little bit off of them. Some of his pros burst out of his cuts is uncommon for a bigger back. So he is I mean, honestly, I don't know why they said bigger back on the assessment. He's 5'11, 215. He's right in the middle when you're looking at percentile, except for
Hmm.
his arm length. His arm length is longer than Peter Skoronski's. Fun fact.
Hmm.
But a very they're saying very sneaky 220. I think I'm remembering what he looks like. Lower half flexibility is special, not a power back despite size. But very they're saying potential bell cow running back. Yeah, I don't love it because when you look at the other ones, Spears, I like Sean Tucker, not necessarily more in the passing game, but I think when you go later on, you can get some of these other people that give you a different dynamic. I think that with Kendre Miller, it's definitely more going for a true starting running back, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like we
And
already
y
have running backs.
Yeah, and you
Um,
think you already you see how Poles is so, like, analytical and so, like,
yeah,
not spending his money in all these spots, so he's probably on that, like, PFF, like, running
running backs
backs
don't matter.
just
Yeah.
don't running backs don't matter. Get a 7th round pick on them or something, or get an undrafted running back or something. That's probably where his mind honestly is, rather than getting one in the 3rd round.
Yeah, yeah, and I will say this though too, because this came to mind is I actually heard a rumor that the Bears offered to Jamal Williams more money than what Jamal Williams ended up getting. So it was technically more money than what they would have offered to a David Montgomery. So I find that
Wow.
interesting. I think Lauren Cox uh, mentioned that on his show, and yeah, it's like, yeah, so I don't know if he really does not believe running backs don't matter. But yeah,
Interesting.
RoboPoles is like, nah, man, we're drafting this guy right now. But we're at pick 133. Right before us, Wicks, wide receiver out of Virginia, goes. Jalen Jones, cornerback out of Texas A&M, goes. Brown, safety out of Penn State. Latu out of Alabama, the tight end, goes. Yeah, so and then Spears goes 124. So now here's where the Bears have some close, tight picks. So pick 133 and pick 136. So let's just see who's available. Best available running back, running back, running back. You can't write it up any more like that. So that's where it is interesting. Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Let's actually look at some of the wide receivers. Xavier Hutchinson, I do like. I think here would be a really good pick. Consensus, he's 114. Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver out of Mississippi, a good receiver as well. Trey Palmer kind of reminds me of Christian Watson light almost. Like he's just a burner, like just insane speed. Charlie Jones looked very fluid out of the wide receiver out of Purdue at the combine. Andre is so I totally butchered that. That's my bad. Andre out of Princeton. I don't know why I couldn't say his name, but yeah, 169 overall. I'm trying to look at any others. Like it's the same interior offensive linemen that are on the board. Linebackers Dorian Williams. If we want to get, I don't know why. I could see us potentially drafting a linebacker just to have someone that could potentially play
Yeah,
teams.
I agree.
Tight end, there's still some good ones. Schoonemaker is still out there from Michigan, and Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion, who like broke the record for just domination out there. Our boy Kobe Turner, the 3 tech out of Wake Forest.
Yeah.
We like Coburn, the interior guy. I guess Riley Moss. I mean, we don't need a
Hey, Riley Moss.
Riley
I love
Moss.
me some Riley Moss.
Yeah. Trying to look at. Yeah, this is where we get down to the back.
Who's that edges?
Edge. Isaiah McGuire's still
Yeah.
on the board. Yaya Diaby's
Okay.
still on the board. So we broke
Yeah.
those guys down before. Like there's some good defensive ends when you're drafting later on. I like Diaby because that frame, but
Yeah, that's where this is kind of it's I wish like for a running back, it's like, yeah, like even if we really wanted to take a shot, like getting like a Deuce Vaughn would have been kind of fun, or like, just get like a Rashawn Johnson, or someone a little bit later in the draft or something. But yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard. I think it would be nice getting Yaya Diaby, like you said, kind of get that depth piece, or even get a linebacker. I think that is kind of underrated, getting a linebacker, because besides those 3 guys that we just got, our starters, I can't really think of like who their backups are. Like that's all kind of up in the air, and you kind of need that backup linebacker as a special teamer, and we don't know, if Jack Sanborn will still be on special teams. We don't know if
true.
the guy out of that we just got from the Eagles,
Yeah, TJ Edwards.
Yeah, TJ Edwards. We don't know if he's going to be special teams, like because he played special teams.
Oh man, nah, he's got to be weak
So
side, man.
so we'll see. Like,
Yeah.
if we do need that extra, linebacker just for competitiveness and kind of have a young guy develop behind them.
So let's see. Let's go. Oh man, Doug reminded me of the favorite linebacker Bumper Pool. That'd be amazing. Yeah, and PayPal renewable reminded you were probably thinking Weatherford, Gates, like those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys were good special teamers. It's like did
they
you
weren't
draft
bad.
someone at least have one? But let's see what ends up going on. I'll do this next one. Let's see, 133. Okay, I personally don't know much about this guy. So let's play the chime at Bears select interior offensive lineman Nick Broker out of Mississippi. They're giving this a B. I'm looking to see if I can find anything else about this selection. Like
I mean, he's a guard. That's the big red flag. I don't think guard is necessarily what we need. Definitely interior. Another malfunction by this robo pulls. Again, only not drafting the same position more than once. So maybe next round we'll get like a safety or so, something out of the blue. Well, who knows?
Yeah, 6'4", 305, a little bit smaller. I'll just kind of go through some of the strengths. Treats opponents like a blocking sled once he's centered up. Sustains attack with vice grips for hands all day. Worker and block finisher. Efficient with hands and hips to swivel and seal cross blocks. Okay. But weaknesses, below average length. Lacks desired athleticism as a move blocker. Entry point can be too tall into his down block. So I think with this, RoboPoles is trying to just add some people out here. Yeah, Doug saying 3-year starter at left guard. Yeah, I have not seen much out of him, but yeah, it's like we need a center, RoboPoles. Like, unless maybe, I'm not a big fan of this RoboPoles, and that's why you're starting to see the stuff drop a little bit more. Let's just simulate past 136 and just see what they end up going. Okay, here we go. I don't mind this. Like I said, actually, let me play the chime. I can't talk about it till we get the chime going. At pick 136, Robot Poll selects wide receiver Charlie Jones out of Purdue. Honestly, a little bit high. I think that's why they're giving it a B. But Charlie Jones was someone that I remember watching at the combine, right? And yet again, it's the underwear Olympics out there, but he looked fluid. He looked very smooth with his routes, and I don't mind this at all. Let me pull up some of his measurables out there. But you got anything on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's again, he's kind of that smaller frame, almost like a Nathaniel Dell. He's 5'11", 175. He's turning 25, so hey, we kind of like guys that are turning 25 when we got Velus Jones Jr. So that would be very interesting. I mean, getting an older receiver like that, I think personally for me, if we do get a receiver, I think we would kind of go that younger route. Saying that we already kind of have that core kind of set. Like I'm including Velus Jones Jr. That's still controversial, I guess. Sometimes some people, I think people are kind of warming up to Velus Jones Jr. a little bit more lately. But we kind of have that core, so I think it would be nicer to get that younger receiver. But hey, when you have a guy that's talented like this, his draft stock, he's gonna have negatives like his age and size and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a little bit on him, and yeah, like just you can see the smoothness in his routes. Like I was saying when I was watching him at the combine and looking at the scouting reports out there too, similar, right? So Charlie Jones, they're saying run routes with hip sync and crisp cuts, and also can use hand separation to separate out of these cuts. I really should have pulled up my own draft board out here. But yeah, last year had 1,361 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns. So really and he played 536 snaps last year. 281 the year before that. So really didn't play too much. But yeah, 2.7 yards per route run last year, which ranks actually fairly high. 83.8 receiving grade, only a 2.7 percent drop rate. So good hands, good route runner. Some of the big downsides is, he's not going to be leaping over people. And also, too, just from the perspective, it looks like downfield threats. He doesn't have that crazy top end speed later on. I mean, he did run a 4.43. So yet again, that's why it's on the Underwear Olympics.
Yeah.
Like he's not creating separation out there deep balls. So yeah, so I think that's where let's actually just run this for the rest of the mock, just so that we can at least kind of get these picks down, because now we're at the tail end of everything. We still have pick 148, 218, and 258. I wanted to bring this up too because this is where anything can happen. And for those that don't believe it, I put together my own metrics, and I just wanted to pull this together. So last year, the average draft position differential, right? Like from where someone was drafted outside of that was 2 from the first round, and then 13. So 13 picks difference in the second round, 10 pick differential in the third. But when you get to the fourth and fifth, each pick on average is around 30 picks outside of the consensus average draft position. And then when you go to the sixth round, it's 56 picks difference, and seventh is 44. So this is really where people say, screw the draft board. I need special teams. I need someone to just kind of add in. So I'm just going to kind of have this simmed and just kind of continue this going. But I guess overall, like what we were saying, currently RoboPoll's not a huge fan of what, like towards the end, right? I think some of that stuff has not been great.
Did I not call it? They picked Ronnie Hickman, a safety out of Ohio State. So,
so yeah,
like what?
So let's call that out. So let me do the chime. And at pick 148, safety Ronnie Hickman out of Ohio State. I like the idea of at least drafting one later on. I will say that at least. Like Ronnie Hickman, they're giving it a C. I think overall, like you need some of that depth, right? A lot. You got Hicks last year in the 7th round. There's no telling that he's going to be great, right? Or like a good backup. And also DHC, he is long in the tooth, even though he's your boy. He is a little bit older, but Hickman, 6 foot, and 203 from the weight perspective. But yeah, 2-year starter with NFL size. Like that's kind of the big piece with Ronnie Hickman. And I want to say too, in some draft boards, Hickman goes a little bit higher. But let's see. And also looks like the
PFF has him, ranked around like 130, 137. So
yeah,
a little bit.
PFF rank 116, and we got him at 148. So, and 21 years old, even though he's a senior, he was their 19th ranked safety overall with an 84.8 grade. And this is where, like, I'll be honest, I really focus in on the first 4 rounds, really, just because this is where now you start getting into the later later rounds. But RoboPolls has now completed the draft. If we go down to the bottoms, we end up picking up a tight end, Braden Willis, tight end out of Oklahoma. They're giving it a C+. And Javarius Owens, safety out of Houston. Why are we double dipping at the safety position? RoboPolls, why are we going? I mean, I guess they must be like, hey, listen, we got to get some people out there. We got to get some backup. And they're double dipping, but they do like it. They're giving it a B+ for Javarius Owens. Let's see if I can pull up a little bit about both. But yeah, just a little bit more about Ronnie Hickman before we kind of turn. Yet again, these are very late round people. Some of the strengths: stays keyed on tight ends through play action, crowds and collides to disrupt catch comfort underneath. It seeks to slap the football at the football using angles and length. Weaknesses: has difficulty recognizing play development at times, inefficient in space with too many wasted steps, and more reactive than anticipatory in his coverage. But if we stay out here, do we even have Gervarius Owens?
Yeah, Braden Willis. He just doesn't seem the best guy you should be drafting. Devarius Owens, yeah, he I don't know. He seems another. That's the thing. It's like it's 7th round. Doesn't seem like the best player, but he has a very high forced incompletion rate. So at least he's an aggressive player.
Yeah, out here too, Braden Willis, 6'3.5", and 241 pounds. Little bit about him. He's his strengths: careful to center up the blocks with balance, body control to adjust and make blocks in space. So good blocker, launches into opponent with strong hands. So they really like him from the blocking perspective. Definitely fine with that. Good toughness in run after catch, but weaknesses: momentum of the route is especially disrupted by traffic, tight and sluggish getting into breaks, below average threat to attack vertically, and catch radius is just average. So just seems more of a blocker you get later on in the draft. Don't mind that at all. And then yeah, Gervarius Owens, a little bit about him: 6 foot 195. And let's see, 37.5-inch vertical jump. Little bit about him: strengths, team captain, and 4-year starter at Houston. Usually
Hmm.
stays deeper than the deepest as high safety, covers with decent anticipatory route anticipation in the slot. So can go down into the slot, drop several potential interceptions in 2022, inconsistent field recognition as a safety, and burst to throw appears just to be average. So
Hmm.
yet again, we're talking about late round guys out here, but yeah, where's
It'd be interesting getting that Braden Willis guy of like at least he fits a role, like he would be the blocking tight end. Where we kind of got Robert Tunyon, and Robert Tunyon really isn't that. He's not a blocking tight end. So it's like maybe in running downs we would have Komet and then Braden Willis, or a guy like that. So it's interesting. I really didn't think too much of getting a tight end in the draft in a later round.
But Doug makes a good point. We needed a center.
Right?
Yeah, like I honestly I could I hate saying this, but I could see this also happening too, where the Bears end up going like, no, 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 we got White Hair and Lucas Patrick. And every Bears fan's like,
Yeah.
no. Like, can we just have a competition? Like, let's just move on. And like, I don't hate White Hair as much as like, I don't know why the Bears really, really seems like they want to get rid of him. I don't mind him at center. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's like I would at least draft one and just try and develop someone out there, right? Um, and then yeah, so let's see then. Braden, let me just see. I'm gonna try and pull up some of his stats. He's 269th ranked tight end according to PFF. But yeah, his run block rate is 80.3. So that's
Yeah.
good to know. Braden Willis, like that, I did not know much about him, but it's good to know that there's at least a good run blocking tight end out there. And Gervarius Owens, the PFF has him as like the 200. So that's
Yeah.
where it'll be interesting. But yeah, overall, I guess how are we rating this one, PayPal? What's your thought
Yeah.
on it?
I mean,
And everyone in the comments, what's the
a
feeling?
lot of early, like, cornerback at, 2nd round, then going 3rd round with a running back, not drafting a center, um, getting Derek Hall when Foskey and, um, the other guy was available from, Georgia Tech. I I gotta go, like, it would leave me confused, if Poles did this, I would be very confused and, like, kinda just, "Alright." My trust in Poles would kinda go a little down because I trust him a lot. I've been trusting him, like, everything he's been doing, I'm like, "Wow," like, I don't see it sometimes, but, like, you know, kinda over time, I understand, okay, this is why he's doing this is why he's, not spending as big in free agency, whatever. Um it would leave me confused. I think that's the big thing. So, I mean, if we're just doing, no pluses or no minuses, I gotta go like, is D bad? Like C, maybe D. I honestly might just go D because like it really goes below my expectations a lot. It kind of got me like, what the heck? Like what? Like even I don't like getting Tuli. He's not that guy that would fit us as much.
Yeah, and I think, and also Adam had a good idea. He said, "I vote do another one." I actually did run another one, so I really want to see. Like, I just ran it, but yeah, I agree with you on that. Where I don't, it's not like I hate Thule. I just think that it is a little bit off. But like with the people that were available in the second round,
Yeah.
I don't love what was out there, right? So I just ran a second one, and we'll see. We got a lot. AI was drunk. This is why I also wanted to run it too, because like I feel like as a Bears fan, we're like destined to like somewhat be disappointed. But like, because even with last year, a lot of people were disappointed that we didn't get George Pickens, right? And it's like,
Mm,
what? We went Kyler Gordon? What? We went safety? Right. So that's where this was also kind of a good exercise as well, because we were able to kind of bring that up. But let me actually
yeah.
share my full screen real quick to show you what I guess like Robo RoboPolls V2 did.
Oh,
So at
DJ
pick
Turner. Oh,
at pick 9, V1 went Paris Johnson, then Skoronski in V2. So at pick 53, Cody Mauch, interior offensive lineman, North Dakota State. He's played right tackle, so that's where you'd have to kind of debate. The debate kind of comes in: is he truly a? I think he's a guard, but he did play some right tackle at the Senior Bowl. I do think that. I think it might have been Jimmy or someone made a point up top in the comments that about him being at the Senior Bowl. Felix Anudike Uzoma, edge out of Kansas State, love that. DJ
mhm.
Turner again. So they were consistent with DJ Turner, and they were consistent going running back at 103. They go Sean Tucker. I don't know if I love that more. Like Sean Tucker doesn't really catch the ball
Yeah.
from what I remember. Zach Kuntz, tight end out of Old Dominion, very big physical freak. Jaden Reed, really like that pick, wide receiver out of Michigan State. I like that more
Hmm.
than Charlie Jones. And then Moro Ojomo, defensive lineman out of
There he
Texas
is.
at 148. This is not the nose tackle, but the other one, the more kind of like the 3-4 defensive end. And Josh Weil, tight end out of Cincinnati, and Carlton Marshall, linebacker out of Troy. I like V2. I like
I
V2 a
agree.
little bit more. I still like Paris Johnson over Skoronski. I mean, the only thing is we like, now that I'm looking at this, we didn't go 3 tech. Like we, but I mean, at the same time too, it's like, would we, if this happens, it'd be more of, well, okay, they like Justin Jones. They see Walker as more of a defensive tackle, and we have Billings, right? And they might be like, okay, we're
Yeah.
good. And so, yeah, that I
And
kind of
hey,
like this a little
yeah,
bit more.
this draft definitely, I mean, both of them just prove that,
Oh,
we're definitely don't need a center or something. Someone's gonna be moved to center, whether it's Lucas Patrick is gonna stay there, or Whitehair is gonna move. So that's interesting. And Cody Mauch, I'm surprised he's up that high. I know PFF doesn't have him ranked going in the second, I believe. I think he's a little further down.
yeah, they don't love him. And actually, so now that I'm looking at this, and now I'm kind of thinking about it, this is a bold. This would be bold. This would be very ballsy from polls, because Skoronski, short arms, Mouch, short arms, both could play tackle for you, but you're really like, you're banking on Skoronski. Like, actually, the more that I see this, the more I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if
yeah.
Skoronski isn't a tackle and he's a guard, Mouch most likely is going to be a guard. Like, he hasn't, from what I'm looking at. Look, I don't see any snaps at center, but yeah, like, yeah, Dobbs is saying, can Skoronski move to center? I think that's where it'd be
That's
interesting. But
interesting.
yeah,
That's
like
a good point.
because they did say Skoronski can play anywhere. But yeah, that's where, and that's where Larry, I 100% agree. Larry T saying real life polls would make trades. Yeah, trade down for more picks. Exactly. Like he would. But this was interesting. This is a fun exercise, definitely. If you guys liked it out there on YouTube, make sure to like out there. Make sure to also subscribe, because now we'll actually do a legit mock draft. Either this Thursday or Monday, we'll still look at that. We might break down another position group. Just make sure to subscribe, and also turn on notifications. We never say that, but turn on notifications so you can join live. For those listening, be on the lookout too, that are out there in podcast land. If you want to contribute and be like, hey, here's who I think they should be drafting, we'll go live and then we'll do a live mock draft and we'll see who in the comments. We'll do a fan one and we will see out in the comments who we should draft, and we will have a fan-made mock draft. But ladies and gents, it's good to be live again. It's good to be out here. I am missing the warm weather. But with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a